Welcome. Today we have another free workplace assessment, this time for Bailey. Bailey has a great setup, but he has still wrist and forearm pain, and that comes after an hour or two. So together we're going to analyze his workplace setup, and we're going to do this according to the ErgOHListic Method, which I just trademarked so that you see how it functions and how relevant it can be to you also. Welcome, I'm Olivier Girard, ergonomist, posture therapist, author of the Posture Manual, and creator of the Posture Academy. Here are the photos that I got from Bailey. He tells me that he has this wrist and forearm pain, which is kind of the remaining pain after a long history of back and neck pain, which was resolved with an electric desk. He has tried many different setups. This one is the most comfortable, but still the pain comes after an hour or two. According to him, he sits for 2 hours and then stands for 40 minutes. This is the information that I have. So now we're going to apply the 4 pieces of the ErgOHListic Method. Piece number 1 is the cumulative model. Behind the cumulative model, I'm skipping the theory, is the idea that we should look for toxic cocktails. What are toxic cocktails? Well, toxic cocktails are bad posture combined with duration, bad posture combined with physical efforts combined with duration or frequency, or the 3 together. And next to that, we have stress that we try to reduce. So basically, whatever be the situation, we look for biomechanical toxic cocktails. When we talk about screen work, there's no physical efforts. So basically, with you guys, whether you're office worker or gamer, the only thing we look for next to stress is bad posture for prolonged duration. And in that, we bear in mind that posture is not only the body as a whole, but it's each and every part of your body. So we have to zoom. And the difficulty is to know where should we zoom. Now we move to step 2. That is why we have the second piece of the puzzle, which is the 3 rules of posture. We're going to apply rule 1 first. Rule 1 states that we don't like slouched, hollow, or twisted backs. In these pictures that we get, there is a suspicion from my side of a hollow back, in the sense that when you have your pelvis on the backrest as well as your shoulder blades on the backrest, your lower back will hollow. Between the lines, I also suspect some kind of twisted back, in the sense that it's very difficult to stand on the spot for 40 minutes in a row. Normally, we all tend to shift on one leg or the other, and the result is a twisted back. Rule 2. The neck should always be relaxed. So let's look for sources of neck strain. And here we come to the same. You know, when your back is reclining, your line of sight should be moving upwards and something should be supporting your neck. In that case, there's no neck support and the line of sight is rather horizontal. So there is strain in the lower cervical spine. Rule number 3. The body is built upwards and it should rest on strong foundations. Here I see 2 foundations problem. One is in the feet. This is more a suspicion. But when the feet are twisted outwards like this, probably the knees are spread wider than the feet. And the result of that is a tendency to slouch, although we don't see it on the picture. And the fact that the pelvis would be therefore sliding forward in the seat pan is my second foundations issue, say, or suspected issue. Rule number 4, we try to identify sources of excessive pressure in different joints. In this case, I see 3 sources of excessive pressure in the wrist. One is the direct pressure on the edge of the desk. The other one is the wrist extension, which is linked to it, because when you rest on the desk and you have a thick keyboard, well, there is wrist extension. And the third one is also linked to it. It's this lateral deviation, because when your wrist is resting somewhere, well, the only way you can move your hand is with this lateral deviation. The elbow is kind of stuck. These 2 pieces of the puzzle, so the cumulative model and the 3+1 rules of posture, are the tools that we need for diagnosis. And at this stage, we can try to relate what Bailey tells us and what we have observed. There are 2 ways to relate it. Number 1 is, you know, I told you the lower cervical spine is strained, and when you have strain in the C6, C7 area, the radiating pain goes in the arm, and that can participate in elbow pain. The second link that I see And again, we're talking about hypothesis here, with thing that we need to fix and see what happens. Is these three wrist issues that can definitely cause pain in the forearm and in the wrist. You can test for yourself, put your hand here and do the wrist extension. You see it contracts under the other hand, and same you do the lateral deviation, it contracts also. And then we move to action. The third piece of the ErgOHListic method is the plan of action. The plan of action has always the same structure: strategic, technical, organizational, behavioral. In this case, strategic is, well, Bailey, you tell me that you work a lot and you game a lot. Do you really need to game a lot? No, I know it's provocative, but this is strategy. It's wondering, do you need to spend so much time behind your computer, or could you do something else with your time? My job is not to bring answers. My job in this case is to raise questions, and then you answer for yourself. If you come to the conclusion that there's nothing you can do at strategic level, i.e. nothing you can do to avoid the problem in the first place, you move to the second step of the plan of action, which is the technical solutions. In this case, the technical solutions, which I think could be adapted, is, as far as your wrist is concerned, a wrist rest on which you should float, not rest. I do see something that looks like a wrist rest, but it doesn't seem thick enough to reduce the wrist extension. We could also discuss, to reduce the wrist extension, that you could try a less thick keyboard. What I also think is that you could put some kind of a visual reminder of where the mouse should be, because currently Bailey tends to have the mouse rather inwards, and that has an impact in terms of lateral deviation. I think that the mouse should be slightly more to the right so that it's in front of the elbow. Step 3 of the plan of action, which I do think is a problem, honestly, is the rest break schedule. I mean, if you sit for 2 hours and stand for 40 minutes, I don't know when you get out of your computer between all that, but I would get out of my computer at least once an hour, whilst trying not to remain on my chair for more than 30 minutes. So the timer there is not good. And then when we talk about behavioral measures, well, we talk about trying to get into the habit of, lifting gently the wrists when you type. So the movement is not with your elbows, and it's just this, like a pianist. It's just I type, I rest, and doing things that will relax the forearm area. But I'm going to come back to that in the last step of the ErgOHListic method. The last step is the 3-box system. It's trying to find out what we can do in which order, so that the setting the objectives is realistic. So what I think is the following: is there are things that you can do every day, things that you can do every week, and escalation means. So let's focus on box 1, which is the things that you should do every day. I mean, I really think that you should try to get a thicker wrist rest, and then your first goal would be to try and take off the pressure from your carpal tunnel so that your wrist can really glide on the thicker wrist rest. The second thing you should do in box 1 is increase the frequency of the breaks, and if we want to cite a third one, that would be during your breaks, during each break rather, do the upper body reset. If I think about box 2, which are things that you should do every week, well, they are the stretches of the wrist that I link in the description. You should really have a look at the playlist that I have on for posture correction exercises. They are simple exercises, no sound, but rather good. So there's this stretch that you should do, and you can potentially do this stretch also. So you see I'm just pushing on my index down and outwards. And next to that, this exercise which I'm linking, which is about mobilizing the lower cervical spine, which suffers from your habit of having your shoulders on the backrest. In the box 2, you could also remember to once in a while put a kind of a plastic bottle behind your shoulder blades, so that you learn that this is not the right posture, this is the right one. I'm also linking a video to understand that idea of what is the right torso angle. And in the escalation means, what you need to do is understand what helps the symptoms. Is it heat, cold, electricity, massage, exercises, or taping? You have 6 families basically. And then whenever the pain starts going up, well, the idea of the box 3 is that you need to be equipped to do something within 15 minutes and every 2 hours. So once you have found what helps your pain, the idea is that you get the right equipment at the right place. Say, for example, if you need heat, well, you have the shower at home, you can possibly have something, some patch that you can microwave, but you need something at work, you know. And at work, what can you get? You can get a warm gel, you can get, if you have a microwave at work, also something that you can microwave, or an electric patch that will, you know, bring you some heat on the battery or on the sector. And when you're in the car, well, then you have a warm gel. So see, what I'm trying to do here is really structure the discussion with 4 steps. And, you know, I have a 10 lines email from Bailey, which is the rule of the game for this workplace assessment. So, you know, we would have on a one-on-one discussion a greater depth in the conclusion, in the analysis. But at this stage, I think there's already a source for inspiration and action.